Yo, what is up everybody? Jumping here, and I am back with my NG+10 playthrough of Dark Souls 2. Now I have to be honest, this commentary is actually a post-com. I tried to do this with a live com, but I just couldn't do it. Yesterday, when I recorded this, I was pretty freaking hungover. If you guys remember, I did a live stream recently, and I got pretty freaking drunk. So yeah, I was hungover when I tried to do this, and I just couldn't do it. So I said, you know what, fuck it. I'll record the gameplay, I'll do a post-com later when I feel better. Alright, so one big thing I wanted to talk about in this video, and one reason why I wanted to do this as a post-com, is because I want to talk about the new patch. And I really want to break it down for you guys. If you don't know what's going on with Dark Souls 2, everything that's gotten changed. Alright, but obviously if you can't tell, we're also going to be running through the Shrine of Amada, aka the Lake of Doom. Now I thought this place was going to be a total nightmare, but honestly this was actually pretty easy. I had like really no problems. And yeah, so let's go ahead and get started with the patch and what did they change. Alright, now the first thing that they changed is that they actually nerfed the Avalines and they nerfed the Sancerre Sphere. Now the Avalines, what they did was they reduced the tracking on it. I don't know if they reduced the damage. I believe they also reduced the damage, but they definitely reduced the tracking. It's a lot easier to dodge now, and the reload speed on it is actually quite longer. So it's funny because I've seen a lot of people using the Avalines still. I think at this point people are just testing them out, seeing like how bad they are now. But when I went against people using Avalines, it's really easy to dodge them, and it's easy to counter somebody because it takes them forever to reload it. So yes, the Avalines definitely got hit hard. The Sancerre Sphere, I'm pretty sure what they've done is that they have pretty much reduced the damage on the Sancerre Sphere. They made it so that when you swing it, it requires more stamina to swing. And there's some other things too. I'm not too sure about the Sancerre Sphere, but I have seen a couple people using that. And once again, anyone who used it on me yesterday, that's when the patch came out, I really had no trouble. So, like I said, I'm not 100% on some of these nerfs. You guys could leave comments and like help correct me and say like exactly what they've done to like the Sancerre Sphere. But all I know is that I'm pretty sure they reduced the damage, and they also made it so that it requires more stamina now to swing. So that's pretty interesting. The next big thing, which I think is one of the most important things that got nerfed, is the Bat Staff. The Bat Staff no longer applies its poison damage when you cast spells, primarily meaning Dark Fog. Because if you guys don't know, the Bat Staff could literally instant poison you with Dark Fog, and it was really freaking annoying. What they've done is that they made it so that the poison damage only applies to your melees with the Bat Staff, which basically will make the Bat Staff useless. I don't think we will see anyone using that anymore in the future. But it was bullshit that you had a staff that could instantly poison people. I did not like that. So I'm really glad they decided to change that. Alright, now the next thing I'm going to talk about are the buffs. Although I should bring up the two spells that got hit. I'll talk about the spells next. Great Resonant Soul got hit. And I don't know exactly how much the damage was reduced, but I do know I have been hit with Great Resonant Soul a couple times since the nerf, and I definitely take a lot less damage now compared to what I used to. So I do believe they did nerf Great Resonant Soul quite a bit. Now, one that I tested because I was a little so-so on this one is Wrath of the Gods. I personally don't feel like Wrath of the Gods is all that overpowered. Although I do think that the damage can be ridiculous. I have hit people even after the first nerf, because this would be the second nerf. I have hit people for 2,700 damage with Wrath of the Gods. That is just outrageous. It's not balanced. So I do believe it was necessary for them to reduce the damage of it. My only concern is that when I tested it, I feel like they have reduced the damage maybe too much. Because when I tested it against the guy who had no faith defense. He had no lightning defense. He had like a 7 in his faith. He didn't have great magic barrier on, anything like that. So this guy has very, very low defense. I only hit him for 1500 damage. So I would imagine if you have like a decent amount of faith, meaning that you would have a decent amount of lightning defense and great magic barrier, I would think that Wrath of the Gods would only hit for maybe 500 or 800 damage. So that's pretty disappointing. The only thing about Wrath of the Gods that is really awesome, and it's going to suck that you're not going to be able to do this anymore, a lot of times if you were getting ganked and you had like 3 guys coming at you or trying to kill you, you could just simply Wrath of the Gods and kill all 3. It was like the greatest thing ever. But now I do not believe that's going to work anymore. See, what I was thinking and what I was saying is that I think that the damage of it should be 1500. But when I say 1500, I mean 1500 versus like everyone. 2700, that's pretty outrageous. You know, that's ridiculous. That's a one shot to most people. But 1500, it's kind of, I think it's fair, you know. But like I said, when I tested it against a guy who had no lightning defense. He didn't have great magic barriers, so I think against anyone who's going to have the defense to withstand it, it's going to do anywhere between 500 to 800. Alright, so now I actually want to talk about the buffs, because they've changed all the buffs in the game. Now the main one I guess I should bring up is Resonant Weapon. I'm not too sure what they've done with it. I know that people were saying that they're going to lower the damage on it, because if you guys don't know, Resonant Weapon gives you 50% more damage, so it's the best buff because all the other buffs only give you 30% more damage. And the big problem with Resonant Weapon is that because soul memory is a thing and level doesn't matter and there's no meta, then obviously when you get higher level, Resonant Weapon is the way to go. I mean, if you're using Sunlight Blade or Crystal Magic Weapon, Flame Weapon, whatever it might be, you're probably doing that because you like it. You know, or you're going for a Pyromancer build or a Faith build or a Sorcery build. And that's why you're using those buffs. But in reality, you should probably be using Resonant Weapon because it's the best buff. Well, I'm pretty sure they have changed the damage. I tried to test it. It was kind of difficult. It seems like it might be slightly better than Dark Weapon now. But when I was testing it, it seemed like the damage was the same between Dark Weapon and Resonant Weapon. The duration also seems the same for Resonant Weapon. It's about 60 seconds, so I'm a little confused. What I thought they were going to do is I thought what would be fair is to make Resonant Weapon have a longer duration than most other buffs, but have the same damage. That way, it's a little bit different, because people will argue that Resonant Weapon needs to be different. Why? Because it requires you to use 2 slots, and it requires you to pay 2,000 souls. So obviously, it has to be better than the other buffs. But I think duration would have been okay. That would be a stat that I think would be alright to increase. Make it 2 minutes, where most buffs will last 1 minute and 30 seconds or 90 seconds. Make Resonant Weapon last 2 minutes. And I know 2 minutes is a really long time for a buff, but still, as of right now, when I was testing it, it seems like Resonant Weapon only lasts for 60 seconds. So I don't think the duration got changed, but I do think they might have nerfed damage, which would mean that Resonant Weapon might not be worth it anymore. If you're going to use a dark build, just use Dark Weapon, because with Dark Weapon you're going to have more castings and you will also have a longer duration. So that's what I would say. Now, one great thing that they've done is that they've made it so that all the buffs are now going to go off of your stats. Not with damage, but they will go off of your stats in terms of duration, which is something that they needed to do for a long time. See, people always complained about the fact that, let's say Sunlight Blade, you could spice down a buff like Sunlight Blade, make it so that it only needs like what, maybe an 11 faith, because I'm pretty sure there's probably a chime in the game that only requires like an 11 faith to wield. And then yeah, you can cast Sunlight Blade as a buff and it's just as good as if you actually had a 50 faith and you were using something like the Dragon Chime. Well, that's not really cool. So now what they've done is that they made the duration go off of your stat, which makes a lot of sense to me. Okay. Now I do not know, at what stat point do you get the good duration? Let's say the duration is the max is 1 minute and 30 seconds, like it was before. Now I would imagine that's probably going to be maybe a 40 faith or a 50 faith would require to actually get that kind of duration. But I think that makes a lot of sense, and that goes for Crystal Magic Weapon and Flame Weapon. Now, Flame Weapon, I'm really confused because I've heard people say they were going to nerf it. I've heard people say that they were going to, that they were going to basically make it better. They were going to buff it. I'm really not 100% on what they've done with Flame Weapon, because I was really disappointed when I heard that they were going to nerf that. And I think the reason why I was thinking that they would is because people do complain about Flame Weapon. They'll say, isn't it kind of bullshit that Flame Weapon requires no stats at all to use? And yeah, here's the thing about Flame Weapon. It's just as good as something like Sunlight Blade. So, we need to change it. So I think that maybe they have changed it. I'm not too sure. I didn't really test it. But you guys tell me, like, did they decrease the damage on the buff? Is it now 20% or something? I don't really know. But maybe they made it so that it goes off of stats. If they did the same thing with Flame Weapon like they did with Sunlight Blade and Crystal Magic Weapon and Dark Weapon and all these other ones, if they made it actually, scale off of the stats, that makes a lot of sense to me. Because then people can't complain, oh, isn't it bullshit that you could have like a 5 faith and a 5 intelligence and use Flame Weapon and it's just as good as something like Sunlight Blade or Crystal Magic Weapon. So we'll have to see. Alright. Now right here, I am actually doing the dreaded, horrible part, which is fighting against these Archdrakes and these wizards. Now the wizards aren't nearly as bad, but these Archdrakes are fucking horrible. I'm trying to have Felicia help me out. I love Felicia. She is the shit. In one of my episodes, I actually said that she's kind of useless. The only reason why I feel like she's a little bit useless at times is because when I'm doing this part, she falls off the map all the time. I don't know what's wrong with her. The AI is so bad in this game. She will just go running off the map, and it's pretty hilarious. But this particular time, she actually did help me out a lot. She didn't fall off the map. I think I made it to the very end with Felicia. This would be one of the first times I've ever made it to the end with Felicia. But if you can't tell, I'm really having no trouble with this part, because the Archdrakes, Felicia helped me out. I'm sniping all these enemies with the bow of once. This is a fantastic bow, probably the best bow for this part, because it's a lightning bow, and because of the water, it's going to be better or stronger versus these enemies. So that's exactly what I'm doing right now. Alright, but we need to make our way over to the boss. But let me go back and now talk a little bit more about the patch. So, as of right now, like I said, the Avalines got hit, Sancerre Sphere got hit, the Bat Staff is dead, Wrath of the Gods got hit, Great Resonant Soul got hit. All the buffs are different now. I'm not 100% on what they've done. I do believe Resonant Weapon is not as strong as it once was when I tested it. Flame Weapon, I'm not too sure like what they've done with that, because like I said, some people have said they buffed it, other people said that they nerfed it. But yeah, we'll have to see. Maybe you guys could tell me what I'm missing here. And I'm trying to remember, is there anything else that they did with the patch? Really, okay, now one thing I will say is that it really wasn't a patch, by the way. It's a calibration. Like, a patch would be something like, oh, they're gonna patch soul memory and they're gonna fix the parry glitch. Oh, that's it. This is another big one. They changed the parry frames on the curved swords. So that means basically the Monastery Scimitar will not be as good as it once was. I tried to test that, but I didn't really feel like it. So you guys tell me, have you tested the curved swords yet? Is the parry animation now just totally shit? Is it pretty good still, but not as good? Because I hope that's what they've done. I hope they've made it so that it's pretty good, but it's not as good as it once was, because I mean, when you talk about parry animations, the curved swords were like the clear-cut winner. And if you were using anything else to try to parry with, it just, there wasn't a competition between curved swords and like something like the target shield. I mean, the curved sword was way better. And I don't like the fact that there was such a huge imbalance between those weapons like that. I like to see variety. I like to see people use different things to do different things. So if people want to use something like the parrying dagger, then, you know, more power to you. But before, it was basically like, you know, hey, I'm going to use Resonant Weapon because it's the best buff. And, you know, why should I use anything else? Resonant's the best, I'm going to use Resonant. I'm going to use a curved sword to parry because the curved swords are the best. And why should I, you know, handicap myself by using something like the parrying dagger? So hopefully we will have a little bit better balance when it comes to the parry weapons now. Although, the parry glitch is still a thing. And they're going to need to patch that eventually. I really hope that the next thing they'll do, maybe in the next month or maybe even in the next couple weeks, is that they can come out with a patch, an actual patch. Because remember, this was a calibration. This was not a patch. They come out with a patch and they fix the parry glitch, and they also fix soul memory. They just get rid of it. And I think what they could do with that is that they could make it so that on New Game Plus, soul level is the way it works. On New Game, let it be soul memory. Because see, the reason why we have soul memory is because of the original Dark Souls. In Dark Souls, there was a lot of people that would go and max out some gear, get some maxed out armor, maxed out weapon, maxed out pyromancy flame, some pyromancies, and they would stay level 5 or level 1, and they would hunt down low-level players, brand new players, and one-shot them. It was fucking bullshit. I hated people that would do that, because even someone like myself, if I just started over because I wanted to make a new build, I encountered that all the time, and it was very frustrating. So, you know, imagine if you were a brand new player, never played Dark Souls before, and yeah, I just got freaking wrecked right there. That was horrible. See, this is the problem with Felicia. I knew that was going to happen because the boss actually, you know, aggroed on her. This is a really easy boss. I mean, this is one of the easiest bosses in the entire game, in my opinion. And if you just watch the way I fight against it, that is the way you always want to fight against this boss. You just stay really close to it. The arms are going to come out. You back up. You let the monster or the frog or whatever the fuck this thing is, you let him do his attack, and then you run in, you get some counterattacks in, and you just repeat. And it's really, really easy. But when you have some co-op going, sometimes the boss might aggro on your co-op, and if your co-op doesn't know, you know, what they're doing, then they're gonna fuck it up. But if you just follow this simple strategy, you'll have no trouble with the Demon of Song. But let me get back to what I was talking about. But yeah, it was really bullshit in the original Dark Souls game. And speaking of which, Dark Souls 1 is now free on Xbox Live if you have a gold. So I definitely recommend it. If you've never played Dark Souls, go check it out. Although that will be a big problem right now. If you've never played it, watch. There's going to be plenty of people who are going to be trying to invade you and hunt you down because they know they can one-shot you with pyromancies. So I think soul memory can work for new game, to protect new players from getting destroyed by people with max gear and all this other nonsense, because they were able to run through the entire game as a level 1 and max out, like, you know, certain things and kill you. Like, you don't want that to happen. But on New Game Plus, I think soul level should be the way it works for PvP and, well, maybe not co-op, but definitely for PvP. It should work off a soul level, because the big problem with the game is soul memory. It's the level. When people can level up and be super high level, and there's no penalty, so I can be a max level right now, and I can still go and invade people who are going to be like level 200. I mean, that's some bullshit. I could be level 800, and I can invade people who are level 150, 200, and I have such a huge advantage. And because of the level, a lot of the imbalances, well, they really kind of showed up because of the level. Like, Medane is such a factor at a higher level. Like at a lower level, it's kind of hard to do a Medane build. You're going to have to sacrifice a lot. You might have to have really low health or something like that. So, yes, you know, Medane is a big problem at a higher level. But at a lower level, it would never be that big of a problem. Resonant Weapon is another good example, because like I said, because of the fact that you could level up to any level you want, then why the fuck not use dark magic stuff? You know, why not use affinity? Go for it, you know. Why not use all the different hexes? You know, Great Resonant Soul. You could use a Profound Still. You could use a Resonant Weapon. You could use all these things because who cares about the level? The level doesn't matter. That's just how the game works. So if Soul Memory was to disappear for New Game Plus, I would say about 90% of all the problems with Dark Souls 2 would go away. Because then the players could come up with a meta. Maybe it would be 135, maybe it would be 150. And if you would stick at that level, then yeah, you would not have to fight against a lot of these players. Maybe, I think that you could, or you should be able to invade those players still. But if you get invaded, you should not get invaded by someone who is 500 levels ahead of you. I mean, that is outrageous. And I can't tell you how many times I've been invaded by max level people. That should never be how the game works. I do believe, though, that if I am invading people, I should be able to invade anyone of any level. If they're max level, whatever, because I am evading them. But when I'm actually hosting the game, or if I am actually like summoning summon signs like red signs or dragon signs, the levels should be similar. You know, it should be either 10 levels and 10%. They could do 15 levels and 15%. They could do 20 levels and 20%. I don't really care. But as long as they make it something like that, I think the game will be perfect, because basically they have now corrected a lot of the problems. They have, you know, basically balanced the game somewhat, because now the Avalines aren't as big of an issue, or really they're not an issue at all. I really don't think so. Like I said, I fought against several people using Avalines, and it just seems like it was so easy to dodge, so easy to counter. Sancerre Sphere is no longer going to be like this big thing anymore. The Bat Staff is just fucking gone. Wrath of the Gods is not going to one-shot people anymore. Great Resonant Soul is now nerfed, and I don't really know how bad the nerf is, but it seems like when I got hit by it, it didn't really do all that much damage to me. And yeah, you know, the buffs now, and this is the beautiful part. If soul level was kind of, you know, the thing, okay, if there was a meta, let's say 150 would be the meta, then yeah, builds would make even more sense now, because, you know, you're gonna want to actually get maybe a 40 in Faith or a 50 in Faith for your Faith build, because you need it. You can't just simply spice down Sunlight Blade, because if you spice it down, the duration's going to be shit. It might only be 30 seconds long, which is something you wouldn't want. You would want to invest the points for, you know, into Faith for your build, which is really what the game's all about. I mean, it's all about, you know, your build versus my build. That's how PvP in any RPG really works. It's all about that. Your build versus my build. And unfortunately in this game, it doesn't really work like that right now. It's basically just, you level up as high as you can, I'll level up as high as I can, and yeah, let's do it, you know. Then I guess tactics can kind of play into it, but a lot of times it really just kind of comes down to level or gear. If you're rocking max defense and you have, you know, all this magic defense, you have all this defense, and I don't, it takes you about 5 hits to kill me, and it takes me like 20 hits to kill you. It's just unbelievable, but that is literally how Dark Souls 2 works right now. So hopefully this is something that they will correct in the future. Like I said, if they come out and they patch the parry glitch, which I still believe will be a problem, and I don't like it, and I hope that they will fix it. If they would patch that, and they will change the game back to slow level, I think this game would be perfect. Maybe not perfect, but it would be so much better. But yeah, I mean, we'll have to wait and see what they do. I really hope they listen to the complaints about soul memory, because they have listened to us complain about the Avalines and Sancerre Sphere and the Bat Staff and all these other things. I mean, people complain like a motherfucker about those, but I know that a lot of people are really starting to now complain about soul memory, which should be the thing that everyone is complaining about. Alright guys, well that's going to pretty much do it for me. I really hope you have enjoyed this. If you have, will you please like and favorite the video for me. Be sure to comment and tell me anything I might have missed, or maybe I misspoke and I said something wrong. Please correct me. And yeah, I really do hope that you guys have a nice day, and peace out.